Wow, I never seen a show get this hammered and butchered since Velma, and that show was trying to purposely be bad. I wasn't even gonna cover The Acolyte. Ultimately, I didn't give two shits on what innovated. I just could not breathe that word when discussing Star Wars nowadays. So yeah, The Acolyte's marketing didn't really hook me into an extent where I needed to watch this show, but the internet won me again, and it just reeled me in. 13% on Rotten Tomatoes according to the audience. Critics loved it though, so my curiosity clicked in like Curious George, and I took a hold from my rewatch of Peaky Blinders, excellent fucking show by the way, to apparently a more controversial show, and wow, that was a whole lot of nothing. And what I mean by nothing is yes, the plot does turn in directions, but it's so abrupt and short for any substance or build up to big moments in the show that when it all ends you're like, what the fuck, that's it? Like you're just gonna end it there, or there is a sudden drastic change in character where yeah, there is a tease but isn't on a course of moments to take such drastic measures. The show is orchestrated to be presented as a murder mystery. Now I'm a huge fan of the genre, probably my favorite genre with the likes of Seven, Zodiac, or just a thriller mystery vibe with Prisoner. Yet this approach Acolyte was taking certainly didn't garner my attention, but hearing the absolute critiques I've been hearing, like forced threads and how these mothers pretty much pulled off what Plagueis cannot and created twins, I had to just see it for myself. And the words of Joe Pesci,
what the fuck is this piece of shit?
For this breakdown, I'll combine episode 1 and 2 because nothing really happens in those episodes. They pretty much don't do anything new. The meat of the actual development happens in episode 3, 4, and 5. But to call it good development is far-fetched. The first two episodes are pretty much a certain group of Jedi led by Sol and Vernestra solving the murders of their fellow Jedi. And Acolyte May, who's going around seeking revenge for what happened on her home planet, she attacks Master Indara and beats the living shit out of everyone in the bar. And Indara just watches and does not intervene in the slightest, till everyone has been knocked out. You're a Jedi, a protector of peace. Your whole goal is to calm a situation before it escalates. Obi-Wan did that in A New Hope and immediately halted the fellow from hurting Luke and causing any more ruckus by chopping his hand off. But not for Indara. She just sits there till everyone is down and out and finally steps in. You could have de-escalated the situation way earlier. You have a legend like Carrie-Anne Moss who bites the dust early from throwing a knife in the chest and dies. I get the whole pushing reality in Star Wars. It's folks in robes holding laser swords, but consistency is very important. A direct stab in the torso with the beaming lightsaber won't kill it. Well, this now so deep stab through the chest will. Anyway, she spares the bartender, leaving the evidence that could possibly lead to her connection to the murder. Maybe taking out the security holograms would have done the trick if there were any. I guess you want to get caught for these surreptitious murders of certain Jedi who are connected to a possible past trauma. But no worries, because the bartender was able to describe perfectly how the attacker looked, and the two Jedi were dispatched to apprehend a tech junkie, Osha, who we learn is twins with May. But unlucky for Osha, she conveniently kept the same haircut as May, so the Jedi were able to track her down on a ship. Now this is the biggest problem with the show, is how poorly developed their moments. In a lot of good mystery films or shows, the best parts are showing us how they uncover evidence to connect the dots to a possible suspect, putting more emphasis on the whole mystery, you know? The show just immediately cuts the Jedi somehow gathering where Osha was despite not being part of the Order for so many years and detaching herself from connections, and the bartender was able to describe perfectly how the killer looked for everyone to point fingers when the only information that we found is the Jedi murderer was trained in the arts. This is another case of episodes being far too short for such a concept. Anyways, they apprehend her with minimal security. Obviously doesn't go as planned as fugitives escape and Osha crash lands on a planet with no wounds when an uncontrollable ship from the Clone Wars killed an entire team on the Republic cruiser. This is like when Kylo Ren came out of the fire from his TIE fighter like he just took a shower. Does anyone get hurt anymore? Before anyone points to, well, where was this energy when Anakin landed the Separatist ship on Coruscant? Well, Anakin was controlling the foe. This was a full-on collapse on a planet. I'd probably suffer some major injuries from a car crash, let alone falling from fucking space. Anyway, Sol and his team find Osha and hatch a plan to find the real culprit, as there's not much incriminating evidence to really gather May did it. Like, I get believing, but for so many years you think May is dead. I mean, you can't just say, fuck it, you're possibly right. There's no questioning your consequences, but just a, yeah, I believe you. I mean, Anakin was far closer with Ahsoka and had to prove her innocence instead of relying on believing when Defiance was pit against her. He had to go out his way and challenge his own morals to find the truth. Believing has already been used quite a lot in the first two episodes to draw the plot along. Episode 3, where this show really hit the firing range. Nothing but shots and critiques left and right. Apparently this episode was leaked and this was the controversial episode. And yeah, I can see why. The episode opens up with the twin sisters, May and Osha, getting themselves ready for a ritual that will take place. But Osha believes there's more to their galaxy than what they've kept in secret. It creates a bit more of a rift between her and her sister, so these witches live isolated from the Republic as they feel they will be viewed as different and a big problem, as they were able to use the Force, a thread, as they like to call it, to create the children. Not one, but two. Yeah, so the whole Plagueis creating Anakin has been diminished, and his persona and his chosen work kind of feel like it's nothing. I mean, yeah, it was already destroyed with the rise of Skywalker, but it was built up to be this unique situation where Plagueis manipulated the midichlorians to create a full dark side entity, and the Force was like, fuck that, and created Anakin Skywalker, the chosen one.
Achieved death is a power only one has achieved.
The Force should have done the same thing with the witches if that was the big no-no in the galaxy, but the show fails to provide any emphasis on that very plot thread. Maybe we'll get a DLC or a season pass like a video game for content and an explanation we should have gotten here. Even the thread concept is vaguely explained on its purpose or why they believe such a notion that the Force isn't meant to be used as a power, yet the mother does a demonstration later on its use, pretty much contradicting the point.
The thread is not a power you wield.
You before they attack.
Anyways, there's issues with the two mothers on how they want to raise their child. One believes in discipline and treating any outsider as a threat, while the other believes in freedom and kindness, I think. But there's always a but in every Star Wars live action TV show. I was actually hooked on in its worst way. We all know the infamous chant, the cringe chant, let's just call it that. Where I question how did this get passed by anyone. The chant is pretty much an initiation. I believe it's how they created them, but I guess that power or ability isn't really clearly explained on how they did it and why the Force did not retaliate like it did with Plagueis. But the Jedi cut the chant very short as they intervene, and they're a bunch of dicks wanting to investigate the twins and take them because they have the right to, and don't give a shit if the planet doesn't fall under the jurisdiction. I swear the Jedi are worse morally here than in the prequels, when this is during the High Republic. Anyways, Osha wishes to join the Jedi, but May goes full psychopath and wants to kill her sister. What the fuck? A pretty drastic measure with no build-up. Yet again. I mean, Revenge of the Sith did a better job at building Anakin's intent to murder all the Jedi and younglings. Even so, later on he cries, but realized it was too late. But no, she goes from you can't join to trying to burn her sister alive. And she has the audacity, by the way, later on to state it's all her sister's fault. There are just no consequences or accountability at all. The witches die, possibly not by the fire, but the Jedi might have killed them as a hint, painting the Jedi to be assholes, I guess. The show really hates Jedi, by the way. Honestly, I don't even know how many beers I chugged from this shit show. Nevertheless, episode 4. Not going too much in depth because it's merely two parties finding a Wookiee in the forest, who's dead anyways. The problems really rely on two things. May abruptly abandoning the plans to surrender herself. I'm sounding like a broken record by saying this. No build up to such decisions, which could have been interesting. There's no morality to her character. She kills in a way her master wants, to which I question, is it really her that wants revenge, or is it really the Sith? I assume he's a Sith that wants some kind of vengeance and tasks made to do it for him. It's a confusing turn of events. Like I said, no hints or development because from earlier in the show, her motives weren't too vague. It really was in your face that May wanted to kill the Jedi. But don't worry, she's going to turn herself in, but not cleverly, thinking of the repercussions and consequences she will face if she does. Another issue I have with the episode is the abrupt ending. The show has a habit of cutting it when the narrative doesn't feel complete at all. I just want to whiz past that quickly because, like I said, it was boring, it was nothing. Episode 5, probably the best episode given how action-packed it is. The best way I can describe episode 5 of The Acolyte is a Michael Bay Transformers film. Action is entertaining, but it's filled with one or two characters that are interesting, Sol and Kamir. The rest I couldn't care less about. Sol's current Padawan, whose name I forget, Jackie, Jackie is her name. She dies by a nameless Sith getting stabbed 3 times. They had to make sure she really is dead. People have survived from lightsaber impalements, you know, except for Qui-Gon. This dude gets his neck snapped, whose name I also forget. Yord, yes, Yord probably faces the most brutal ending to his character. And the big reveal, ooh. Yeah, we already knew Kamir was the master all along. The show really didn't try its best to hide it. But hey, I will say he's the most entertaining guy in the story. Dude really hit it with the line delivery. And he sort of mocks Sol, stating without rules there's freedom bullshit, similar to the Joker from The Dark Knight. There's also a hint that he might be an early Knight of Ren. There's a score beat which is oddly similar to Kylo's. Probably an earlier rendition of the Knights, to be honest, but we already know how they end up. Now the elephant in the room. Yeah, the saber combat was entertaining. As for it being the best since the Phantom Menace, well, that's all up to opinion. Look, I hate when studios or filmmakers mention, hey, it's the best one since this and that. Just glaze the saber combat by not comparing it to Duel of Fates or Battle of Heroes. You're just gonna try shifting expectations, which could be absolutely worse for your show. But I will say, yes, this is the best live action saber fight since Disney bought the IP. I want to say it tops the prequels. Okay, maybe a Dooku versus Anakin in Attack of Clones. That was absolute dog shit. But I still cared more for those characters involved. Also, at least fix the fucking lighting when filming night scenes. For some reason, every live action Star Wars show loves the grayscale lighting where you can't see anything. And it doesn't help when there's trees in the way and a bunch of fucking leaves and bushes. They were able to create a comprehensible look in Andor, but for some reason here in Kenobi and Mandalorian they can't. But I will give them credit for this episode. Chimera is a good villain. Someone who isn't hell-bent on following rules and wants to be his own character and embracing the darkness within, without the Jedi interfering in any shape or form. He mocks Soul for not embracing his own, which at this point it's pretty much in your face that Soul is responsible for the death of the witches. It couldn't be more clearer than that. May disguise herself as Osha. I guess that's why they have the same haircut for the last 16 years.
Sounds convenient.
Like I said, a Michael Bay Transformers film where the plot is absolutely bonkers, the characters don't really care about except for Chimera and Soul, but the action really hits the spot. So the Acolyte feels like another whatever show from Disney Plus with one decent episode that's the most entertaining. But to say the show is actually cooking after an entertaining 5th episode is a bit dramatic and far-fetched in my honest opinion. I don't think 4 underwhelming episodes and 1 good one warrants the show being, hey, you're actually good. A lot of these live action shows have that one good episode where you question yourself, was all the production and effort put into this one gigantic fight with this big bad guy? The biggest problem with Disney and Lucasfilm is they're dishing $180 million to someone not trying to be offensive here, by the way, but with someone who has one notable show apparently on her resume. And that I had no fucking idea the show existed, to be honest with you. As a big murder mystery fan, the most important parts aren't the moments themselves, but the elements leading up to the reveal. Episode 5 was entertaining, but I couldn't care less on who was dying because the show didn't create enough breathing room to develop their big moment. But like I said earlier, this isn't the worst thing I've seen. I still believe Book of Boba Fett might be the worst Star Wars show, but it depends on how Acolyte lands, to be fair. Sean Chandler, a notable movie reviewer on YouTube, stated this on his Twitter, which I couldn't even agree more. I've been thinking about this lately. Recently I watched Game of Thrones, The Boys, and Banshee. They hook you. You're invested in both the season arcs and the conflict of individual episodes. Disney Plus so often starts with something interesting, but they don't know how to do episodes. And yeah, he's right. I was watching Peaky Blinders and instantly it hooked you with Thomas Shelby, Arthur Shelby, Paulie, and a whole lot more. Acolyte took 5 episodes to even come up with something decent at least. And yeah, I'm also just gonna say the reason why Star Wars hasn't grown in terms of quality is you either can't critique or the critique themselves can be bonkers at times. And yeah, like I said, you can enjoy whatever you like, but some Star Wars fans keep expectations way too low so that Disney will release anything and people will pay for those gummy bear moments just to eat it all up. I would recommend seeing shows like Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, Sopranos, and come back to the Acolyte and you'll see the difference. What makes those shows talked about years later positively than Acolyte or any Star Wars show getting memed on for the wrong reasons.
Good. Get the
I mean, hey, that's it for me. So yeah, see you on the next one.